Fired Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin will make his first court appearance on Monday to face murder charges in the death of George Floyd. The three other former officers involved faced a judge yesterday where conditional bail was set at $750,000. Those three men charged with aiding and abetting George Floyd's murder. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos here now to talk about this case. And Danny, let's start with Derek Chauvin. He now faces a second-degree murder charge. What does the prosecution have to prove for that charge?
When it was just a third-degree murder charge, the prosecution has to show that he did something really, really reckless, the most reckless thing, but it's still an unintentional killing. The second-degree murder is Minnesota's felony murder statute, and that doesn't have anything to do with his recklessness or negligence. Instead, it's a murder, a killing that is committed in the course of a dangerous felony. So the only thing the state has to prove here is that Chauvin committed a felony, and in this case, the predicate felony is third-degree assault. And that's really just causing someone some serious harm and intending to do so. If they prove the felony, they automatically get to murder. And that's why felony murder has often been criticized, because it does offer a prosecution an end run around getting to murder, especially in the case of a clearly, conceitedly unintentional killing. But both murders, second and third degree, and even the manslaughter charge, are all premised on an unintentional killing.
What kind of defense would you expect out of his lawyers at trial?
There are a couple different defenses I would expect. First, police officers are different from regular citizens. They are duty-bound to make arrests when they observe crimes or they respond to crime. So look for Chauvin to put on experts or evidence that show that the possibility that Floyd was resisting, that he was using some degree of force, and that Chauvin thought he was using force commensurate to meet the threat. I think that's a long shot argument. I think the better argument is causation. And although a lot of folks saw the knee on the neck, and that looks really, really bad, if the defense can show, they don't have to prove, but if they can create reasonable doubt that the victim's death was caused by other circumstances, and I can already predict it's going to be this path. They're going to say that he had some health condition, and the resulting stress just from being arrested set a chain of events into motion that resulted in some kind of death independent of the knee to the neck. Again, the burden, they don't have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, quite the opposite. They just have to create reasonable doubt about the causation of death. If they can establish that reasonable doubt about what caused the death, then they may have a shot.
Danny, let's talk about a few of the other officers here. Officer King claims that his fellow officers, he told his fellow officers, quote, "You shouldn't do this." And Officer Lane claims that he asked Chauvin twice, quote, "Shall we roll him over?" How do you expect that defense to play in court? And are we looking at the beginning of possible plea deals here?
The cases against the other officers are much more challenging for the state, and they've essentially conceded that. First, they're charged with aiding and abetting, and that's what we call a specific intent crime. You have to show that they acted intending the outcome, that they, in the case of felony murder, that they acted intending to assist Chauvin with a third-degree assault, as opposed to, say, a lawful arrest that maybe got out of hand. That's a lot more challenging than putting Chauvin on trial and showing him with the knee to the neck. In fact, I expect these officers will likely file for a severance of the trial because they may have inconsistent defenses. They may end up pointing the finger at their former brother officer Chauvin. That's a possibility. But you're right, plea deals are a possibility, but in just anecdotally, what I've seen in these police cases when they are charged with crimes is that they tend to want to roll the dice and go to trial because it's all or nothing for them. It's their job, it's their career, and taking a lesser felony plea, it just isn't going to work for them. So they know that juries will often take into account the dangers that police face every day. And in my experience, just observing these cases, they are willing to take a chance with a jury.
The attorney for Officer Lane said that Derek Chauvin is a training officer and asked the judge, quote, "What is my client supposed to do other than follow what the training officer said?" The attorney telling the judge he thinks the case against his client is weak. Is it?
Like I said, the cases against the other officers are not as strong as the case against Chauvin because of the aiding and abetting that they're charged with. You have to show that intent, that they intended to achieve the unlawful outcome, whether it be that high degree of recklessness, which is even weirder, right? That they intended to help in an unintentional outcome. That's the recklessness charge. But the showing that they intended a felony as opposed to just a normal arrest is going to be a challenge. And remember, the burden is the states at all times to establish beyond a reasonable doubt, the highest standard of proof in our legal system. So all they have to do is generate doubt. And by showing that Chauvin was the training officer, they can establish I was following my superior's orders or direction defense. And that can be really effective. This is the guy that trained us. He taught me how to make lawful arrests. If he's doing it, it's got to be okay in my mind. I'm just a younger junior officer, if that's the case. I don't know that it is yet, but look for that to be a major theme of their defense.
Right. Yeah, you could see how that argument might go. Danny, the Rodney King trial got a change of venue because the defense argued that there could not be a fair trial because of how much publicity the case had gotten in L.A. Is that something that could happen here in Minnesota?
It could. It's rarely granted. Change of venue motions are really difficult, and really they're up to each individual judge. And so it's not likely. They probably want to get out of Minneapolis, maybe into a rural area where maybe less people have heard of this case, if you can believe that's possible. But what you find during jury selection is that a lot of people aren't watching TV and checking Twitter or anything else. So they might get that. More likely, though, is, as I said earlier, the motion for severance. These defendants do not want to be tried with Chauvin. They do not. Part of their defense might be pointing the finger at him and saying he's out of control, and we were just effecting a lawful arrest. We weren't even aware what was going on. Look for that possibility. They may want to sever themselves from Chauvin.
Danny Ceballos, always great to see you, my friend. Thanks so much for your legal expertise.
Thank you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.